guys, hope your weekend is off to a great start. We are wrapping up a 21-day trip here. Started this trip actually down in Texas, and we are now in southwest Wisconsin. Went to the northwest part of Wisconsin, and now we are in southwest, wrapping this this trip up with some client visits and a couple designs, and then we are heading back to the farm where we'll only be for about a week. And then we are back on the road again, and for another, good April ahead of us. So we are in kind of preparation going into the season, and we're going to cover one of the biggest topics that's asked probably throughout the year. If I kept a log on the questions that clients ask me, this would probably be number one, number two of why don't we hunt the food sources. It's a common question. It's a common strategy that folks have used for years. Looking back, growing up, with in a family that rifle hunted. My father wasn't a bow hunter. I always say that, and it wasn't until I started bow hunting in later, years into my teens when I started, bow hunting with a good friend of ours, that it clicked that food source hunting, especially in a high pressure state such as Michigan, where I originate from, you can't get away with that there. Now, in a lower pressured state, can you get away with it? I'm always asked that question. Can you get away with, bow hunting over these food plots? And the answer is, yeah, you probably can get away with it more so than you can in a high pressure state. But why? So, instead of just covering this topic like we have in the past by just kind of driving that home or ruling with an iron fist, if you will, that don't hunt food sources, in my journeys yesterday, I was thinking about this as I'm going down the road, and you're looking not only Wisconsin, I'm not picking on Wisconsin or Michigan, guys, this happens all over the country, but as you're driving down the road, and I encourage you to do this the next time, look out into the fields. If you're a deer hunter, obviously you're tuning into the channel, or you wouldn't be, but as you're driving down the road next time, look into the ag fields, look into people's food plots that you can see from the roads, and start counting the number of tower blinds, box blinds, octagons sitting right on these food sources. It won't take you very long, just driving on the expressway, to start scratching your head. Maybe there's something to this. So instead of really diving into, just again ruling with an iron fist, what we are going to do is we are going to kind of break this down for you so you can kind of, understand more of my side of it, of why I encourage and why I coach not to hunt your food sources. So let's just start this out with the number one. I don't know if it's the number one, number five, but the first point that we're going to talk about here, guys, is my kind of in my teachings around the country, I always refer to this. If I ask 9 out of 10 clients, or 9 out of 10 clients, we talk about this on their property or throughout the day when we are designing their properties. 9 out of 10 folks, if I ask them as a bow hunter or a hunter in general, if you were to hang one stand, and you felt that stand, no matter where it was on your property, you could hang one stand to be successful, where would that be? The answer is always, 9 out of 10 times, is always between bedding and food. Well, we know that as hunters. We know that, obviously the power of edge, the power of being in between point A and point B, hence the reason we're talking about this. If 9 out of 10 folks that I talk to along the way answer that question, I know I should be between A and B. Why are you sitting at A, the food plot, or B, the destination food plot, instead of between A and B? I don't know that either, but I'm here to tell you it's a common mistake. So that's the one thing right there off the bat that I like to touch on is, one of the reasons is we know that we shouldn't be doing it. Why are we doing it? It's a comfort thing. It's a no, there's nothing, and you've heard me say this before, guys, but there's nothing more beautiful than a big, beautiful buck out in a big, beautiful food plot, correct? The problem with it is there are other things that we're going to talk about here today that if you're lucky enough in some states to be able to see that, there's ways to encounter those, have those encounters, but still be successful and still keep your food plots as productive as they need to be. So that's the number one thing that I always touch on with clients. If we know that we're not supposed to be hunting on them, we're supposed to be hunting between that movement, why do we continue to strategize hunting setups, tree stands, box blinds right on the food plots? So that leads us right into number two. Number two, guys, is the way I refer this with my clients is this. To me, when you hunt a food plot, when you hunt directly on a food plot, and we're going to talk about these other things about reaching out and touching a food plot, but if you're right on a food plot, guys, as far as hanging the stand on it or the box blind or the octagon right directly on it, you are sitting at what I refer to as you are at the end of the rainbow. You are sitting at the pot of gold, right? We all know that they're going there, hopefully, if your food plot strategy is strong. We all know they're going there, and then we are letting them go to the, to the next stage out into more of a destination feed location, which is ag. But we are placing ourselves at the end of that rainbow, at the pot of gold. What happens is, guys, you take, especially during the pre-rut, there's so many other things going on, and then we are placing ourselves right there at that at the pot of gold, if you will, at the end of the rainbow, and we're waiting for, hopefully you're being smart enough about the access that you're not going in at dark. If you are trying to hunt one of those in the morning, you're waiting till gray light to get in those stand locations. But if not, we're blowing those areas out before we even get there. And so you have about 15-20 minutes of movement that you may encounter in the morning before, will you get a passing deer if it's in a secure location? You will, and depending on where you're at in the country, the more secure the area is, and the lower the pressure is in general, and that all ties into it. But the majority of the country, the plots aren't screened. They're not in secure locations. They are just spots of fields that we decided to plant and we decided to hunt over, guys. So that is one of my biggest things. Is 15 minutes in the morning, 15-20 minutes in the morning, and you're waiting for that last 15 minutes, 20 minutes before dark in the evening. It's a huge lost opportunity, and you are at the end of the rainbow when you could be between the start of the rainbow and the pot of the gold, and encountering much more than you will by just placing yourself at the end of that and interrupting the rest of the movement that starts, creates, and builds from there. Now, tied to that, I'm not a big shot plot guy, but there is a reason and a need for shot plots. This year, for whatever reason, I've done about 3 or 4 of them for clients because they just make sense. There's areas, but shot plots, we might as well touch on that real quick, and we're going to do other videos about shot plots coming up. But shot plots is one of those guys where you need to keep them simple. Shot plots are the only thing that is not planted the same in your food plot strategy. In other words, if your food plots are brassica related on your fall food focused, your shot plots need to be moving food, need to be something like rye and or oats or wheat, that the deer come in, take a bite, maybe hit a licking branch that's on it, and they continue on. And it's before you get to the food plot, so you're enhancing the area that you're on. But the reason that I'm not a shot plot guy is just that shot plots turn into food plots because we don't keep them small enough. So that's the number 2 thing, guys. We're at the end of the rainbow, and we are waiting, and we're wasting valuable hours in the timber. Number 3, maybe the most important, but just strictly blowing deer off the food source. Just because it's dark, I touch on this with my clients, just because it's dark in the morning doesn't mean that you're not blowing deer off before you get there, especially if you're using a flashlight going into those locations. And just because it's dark, you're not safe, and just because it's dark doesn't mean that you're not blowing deer off the food source when you're leaving. I hear this a lot. Well, I don't leave until the deer are gone. Well, it doesn't matter. There's always another round of deer coming in. Those deer that you think left just went inside the brush, and they are, that ting of that ladder, that creak of that door, that shutting of a window, the scent that most people try to get in there. Maybe that's a number 6 in this line that we're speaking of. They put the wind in the wrong direction, which is a very important video coming down the road here that we're going to do this week in the farm. But they're putting the wind in the deer's favor, so they think. And the problem with that is when you go to get out, now the wind is blowing directly at the food plot, and not only are you not, just not getting busted because it's dark, you can't get away from them. So if you're on them, guys, don't get caught in the trap of believing that just because it's dark, that the cover of darkness is going to save you. It's not. So another very important topic, which is number 4 on my list here, guys. A lot of folks treat their food plots each and every year as being hunted over, but yet they have a part of the farm that they call the sanctuary. A part of the farm they call the sanctuary that they don't go in, they don't intentionally blow deer out of, they walk around it, they keep it scent free, they keep that sanctuary part of their strategy throughout the entire year. My question is to my clients all the time is this: if you're having a sanctuary that you call a sanctuary and you're putting that much emphasis and that much, making sure the habitat's correct, hopefully going in there and making sure that the habitat is correct, building that, staying out of it, not blowing the wind into it, and then you're going to your food plot and you're blowing it out, that food plot is just as important, if not more important, than your bedding areas that you're calling a sanctuary. So to me, when we do these designs, I go very in depth with my clients to make them understand that everything from the front of your stand in the core is the sanctuary. And that includes your food plots. So a huge overlooked deal, I feel, guys, that the food plots aren't being connected to your sanctuary outlook, and you're blowing a part of the sanctuary out. The number one reason, guys, is this. The number one reason not to hunt your food sources is this. Whether you believe that you can get away with it, whether you believe that you should be able to hunt it or not, I'll touch on this real quick. I'm a believer, and if you can reach out, I've got these on my own farm in Kentucky. I design these with my clients all the time. If you can reach out and touch a food plot with a gun, and whether there's 5, 10, 20, 25 deer in that food plot, whatever the case is, depending on the size of it, you can crack the door, shut the windows, crack the door, take 2 steps and be gone. I'm all about it. Reach out and touch them, because you may have the opportunity of a doe to drag a buck at a certain time of the year through that food plot, or a buck is in that feeding program stage mindset, if you will, and drags one through there. So could that opportunity happen? Yes, it could. Are the chances low? Yes, they are. So here's a very important outlook on that, guys. Is the cruising mentality, the cruising experience, is what most folks never get to experience. We place the does within that first 100-yard rim of the food source, of the plot. That creates the mentality of a cruising buck in the pre-rut and the rut, and sometimes even before that sought after label that we wrap that rut term around. Those bucks are scent checking those areas. Well, if that's not a secure food plot to begin with, if you're hunting over it, all this cruising activity is going on behind it. You don't even know that it's happening. You don't know it's there. That's bypassing you. You are on the field edge looking out into the field. All of that is happening behind you. Hopefully not behind you, but that's that happens a lot. So that's why you're getting deer, blowing at you down in the timber, where you should be off the edge of that, looking down into the timber, behind your doe bedding. Hence the reason that we like to hunt behind the does. If you're behind the does, guys, you are going to get to experience what most folks don't get to experience. Being behind the does means being behind the doe the cruising buck movement. In most cases. Now, if you're lucky and your property presents an area to get directly behind them, and then you can blow your wind directly over a big draw or ravine or a pond or big water source, something like that, that's great, because obviously you're creating one heck of a funnel. But you got to be able to get in and out of those spots. Those spots aren't out there all over. So my term is when we talk about hunting behind the does, it's a separate video coming down the road here, guys, we're going to go more in depth about, but it's not being directly behind it. It's being behind the movement, hunting the movement of the cruising buck that is behind the does. So we're going to clear that up and really go in depth on some videos here, guys. So hang with us. We are getting closer to the build. I'm going to bring you guys an update. There's a lot of stuff going on. Been pretty blessed and very grateful of the help that I've got, building the lodge and getting that done in Kentucky on the farm. And I'm looking forward to seeing it after being gone for 21 days here on the farm. I'm looking forward to seeing the progress of it as well. Got a lot of work ahead of us on it, but hopefully these, I like to do these videos on the road with you anyway. It kind of just shows that, I'm a normal person like you, and I'm shooting the videos from the great daylight that we've got here in Southwest Wisconsin this morning through the window of the motel. So tie this one into your strategies, your food plot strategies in general this year, guys. Take yourself off these food plots, and these are probably the top 6 reasons that I always find throughout the year. The top five reasons not to hunt over your food plots. Thanks, guys.